Come to think of it, is there an even more effective mode of human existence than spending your wee hours in the morning, waking up, and getting right down to writing? I love writing, I guess. Ew. I hate admitting things, but one thing I must admit is that there is an unshakable wavelength based around human thought that is shared by all of those inhabiting a human body that allows us to turn vibrations into noise, noise into sound, sound into meaning, pleasures, difficulties, transcendence, dreams, money, sex, power, praise, buildings, towers, empires, countries, clans, order. Words are how we order things. Words are the blueprints of our mind. You can tell everything about a man by the word he uses, the words he uses, how he expresses them, and his response to the inevitable, unabiding no. I feel as if the greatest piece of advice I have received recently is that words are the person's personality. Think about it. We can equate life to one big story. The most believable story doesn't always win. The most unbelievable story doesn't always win. The story that always wins is the story that makes the most amount of sense. The story that fulfills the most amount of needs in the order of being a being in chaos. There are so many great stories out here. It's not enough to have a great story anymore. You have to have a great story represented in an astounding way that does nothing but showcase its marvelous word of use. Its marvelous use of word. We have to be larger than life and fulfill whatever audience that we need to have filled for whatever reason. Could be the first and penultimate reason for why any human being has gotten together. Survival. That's a good reason to have a good story to tell. That fulfills some use. Right? Well, when we first get on this planet, we are told a story. Told a story of how we are on probation. A sort of culinary sampling of our life, our souls, our psyche. It's put to the test on trial as to see whether or not we are fit for being a human being. So the first story we are told is that we are unfit for being the standard human being. The human being most optimally suited for long-standing survival in this harsh detainer world of ours. That this standard of human being has been the one monumentous and continuous strand of living, impeccable, inordinable, inculpable, ineducable, in any and all ways. This gold star for human achievement is inaccessible to those who have any parts that do not correlate with it. You have a need to express yourself? Well, it doesn't fit the damn story of humanness. You have a need to ask questions? That's not a part of the standard. You have a need to define the standard? Don't you fucking get it, you fucking nigger-loving faggot whore of a bitch? If we define the standard of human being, the normal human, then everybody would realize that there's no way for them to ever meet the cut and throw out the use for the standard deviation story of human existence. If we looked at the carrot on the stick, external validation of an external story given to us by external sources from external factors, then we would realize, hey, there's way too much shit for me to keep up with in the first place, so I might as well rebel, or something along those lines. The ridiculous of words. All of our lives, we are told in some way, shape, or form that if we do not meet the norm, our experience as a human being will be cut short. Not in the sense of lifespan, but in the sense of interaction with other human beings. Nobody fucks with the guy who ponders the Polynomicon all day. At least not in public. So when you get to public, it's all raters and meters of those who still have their ego left in them. Those who still have the story of, I'm not good enough because I'll never fit the mold, replaying on loop in their head. Versus me, a somnambulist, someone whose main job is to cut the cord between sleep and wake, and to tell you that there is no story outside of your own. And even then, that shit changes so fast that by the time you put the words down, another truer version of you has came to form and made your most pressing, passionate, and recent archival update and documentation of your own existence look like a facetious bearing of cradled out foreplay. My main story is to have no story, or a continuous stream of collected stories presented in a neutral and ambiguous way. But all stories come from words. The words you tell yourself daily, hourly, secondly. Every single thought that you and the voice in your head produces is valid, golden, and producing the finest story in all of existence. You. What is that dialogue in our head? Quite simply, it is God working itself out. The fact that we are consciously aware enough to talk to ourselves without being aware that we are talking to ourselves should be a hint as to how powerful we truly are. Think about it. Most animals have zero brain output outside of their basic needs. You never see a cat pondering how the Battle of Hastings could have changed European history had not William Normandy became William the Conqueror. Why? Because there's no capacity for language outside of their most innate needs. They are all used up. And yet and still, we have so much thinking ability that we are unaware that we are even thinking, breathing, talking, reading, moving, swaying, experiencing life. We all have this inner critic inside of our heads, telling us how and why we can't do anything outside of what we know. We all have this keeper of our story, this fictitious entity of the mind, which is so powerful that the only words written from its pen of indelible ink can make the canvas on which our story is written and kept. We all have the gatekeeper to the tombs of our identity, the core structure of what we perceive ourselves to be. different names. But I like to call this gatekeeper ego. Evil God overload. Ego takes the words that we have clung to the most. As children, as adults, as beings of light. And they take the emotional content behind those words to create similar vibrations in our life, whether we know it or not. Ego takes the evidence given to us from the outside world and crystallizes it to not only our worldview, but to our self-view, how we perceive ourselves. Most of the time, the ego is not loving, kind, uplifting. Most of the time, ego separates, kills, destroys, classifies, divides. The ego wants to feel superior or inferior in certain ways, just to back up the story it had received when we were little. Most of the time, when our parents talk, it was in the comparison mode. This, not this. Be like this, not this. But in real life, there is no comparison mode. There is no preference. Because all is forgiven and all is preferred. But the ego lives in a land of difference, based on negative programming, of the habitual and emotional sort, to help keep the story of the ego going. Because all the ego cares for is its own existence. It doesn't care for you or me. It cares about how we are secretly weak, frail frauds who are dishonest, unworthy of living or praise, and cannot make anyone we love happy, including ourselves. We are merely helpless victims of a sweeping and uninviting, invisible hand that does nothing but feast upon all of the displeasures and disease found in the human experience. According to the ego, we are merely toys to be played with. Our boundaries do not deserve to be respected. Anything we own can be shunted at will. We must put others' needs before our own worthless lives, sacrificing things that are important to us. Our health, our sleep, our soul, our sense of love, our hearts, to appease the limited egoic views of others, in the fleeting but cruelly unending search for validation outside of one's own discernment. Is the leading cause, the ego, is the leading cause of all neurosis in the natural born world. Telling a pig he has to fly can be the worst thing you can do to a pig. Telling a sensitive child to stop crying because it's annoying can be extremely detrimental to the growth and development of one's youth. Telling a child to stop using their imagination because you can't even imagine what an imagination feels like to play with anymore has got to be a capital sin, worthy of reprimandation of the utmost corporal degree. Words are planted in our head. Our story is not our own until we start admitting that the way we view the world is untrue to ourselves. Until we admit that we have been had, and that nothing we believed can be considered 100% true anymore until the day we die, then we will always be under someone else's sovereignty. other than our own. Until we admit that we can take power over our thoughts, nothing will change. Until we can say, enough of the sob story. I am my own creation. And nothing will ever be about what you want it to be about. Until you change, nothing will. And it always starts with the words we use. Words are your world.